Welcome back, and it is time for our weekly visit with our friend Bill Walton. He is one of the people that we turn to each week for analysis and insights into, well, parts of the battle space, as I think of it, that he's particularly conversant in, namely finance and economic affairs more generally. Bill is a recovering master of the universe on Wall Street. These days, he has a number of ventures, but the most important of them, I think, is his terrific online television podcast. It is called The Bill Walton Show. And we are always privileged to have him with us. Bill, welcome back to Securing America.
Frank, great to be here.
Much to talk about. I'm particularly interested, as usual, in your thoughts about China, Bill, and what it is up to in this financial battle space. I was very impressed by a billionaire by the name of Peter Thiel, who knows his way around the ins and outs of economic warfare, high technology, finance, and the like, who went after what he calls the financial gerontocracy and its engagement with China. Talk a bit about what Peter Thiel is saying and why it is important.
Well, there's an old saying on Wall Street, it's called talking your book. And what that basically means when you get a money manager out talking about how the economy is going to go one way or the other, they're essentially ref- not too subtly talking about what you ought to buy or sell based on what they own or what they're short. And in the case of Peter Thiel, he was speaking at a Bitcoin conference, a cryptocurrency conference recently, and he called out Warren Buffett, Jamie Dimon, and Larry Fink as you point out, the gerontocracy. Well, all these men have their financial models based in the old economy, and they have a lot at stake and a lot to lose if somehow Bitcoin comes on to overtake the U.S. dollar or other asset classes. And to give some context, the place to be as an investor the last 40 years has been in equities. That's gone. The multinational, large cap multinationals have gone up astronomically in the last 40 years, and it's been almost a safe haven. In 1980, the total market cap of the U.S. or the multinationals was about 2 trillion, and the price of gold, about total value of gold in the economy, was about 2 trillion. Now equities have gone to like 140 trillion and gold is like at 7 trillion. So equities have vastly outpaced it. But the other asset class that I think they're worried about and they want to kill it in the cradle are Bitcoin cryptocurrencies, which are a little bit less than a trillion. Now, let me say right now, and I'm sure I'm among a lot of people, nobody really understands what's going on with their money right now, both in the United States and worldwide. Inflation, all the tectonic plates are shifting, and Buffett, Diamond, and Fink want to keep them arranged to their benefit.
And to their benefit has, to a considerable degree, certainly in the case of Larry Fink, and I think Jamie Dimon to some extent, presumably Warren Buffett as well, involves investing in China, involves investing in the so-called ESG space, which Peter Thiel suggested that environment, social justice, governance business is really just another prop under the Chinese Communist Party. Get at what he's laying out there because it seems to me a critical insight.
Peter Thiel is such an interesting thinker. And I think absolutely on point on this because you look at ESG, environmental social governance. If you have US companies or large multinationals complying with dotting the I and crossing the T on all of that, they basically shut down a lot of their businesses. And who was the net beneficiary of that, particularly on climate change, would be China. Because if we go to wind and solar, as I've pointed out, most of that stuff is manufactured in China or subcomponents manufactured in China. And certainly a lot of the important rare earth minerals are there. So ESG plays straight into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party agenda. And the question we all inquiring minds want to know is why does Larry Fink want to play directly into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party, particularly when the alarms are sounding about as loud as they could sound right now about the nakedness of their ambitions?
Well, nakedness is one way of putting it. The global character and the necessity, as they see it, of achieving that global dominance requires the United States to be removed from the picture. So essentially, as you're saying, Bill, Larry Fink and perhaps these other members of the gerontocracy are actually batting for the other team in a very, very much life and death struggle with the Chinese Communist Party, I fear. Which brings me to our Mad as Hell campaign. Bill, you are a member of our Committee on the Present Danger of China, and we've been developing and beginning to roll out elements of a, well, alternative that people who love this country, people who are patriots, people who want to ensure that their money is actually invested patriotically and in the interest of our country are, going to not have Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon, Ray Dalio, Steve Schwartzman, or any of these other masters of the universe putting their money in the service of the Chinese Communist Party, our mortal enemy. How important do you think it is that people awaken to the reality that that's what's being done with their money? And the returns may or may not be all that great for them, but they're very good for the gerontocracy types. That's for sure.
Well, for the established elite companies, the existing regime is working just fine, and they don't want to change. Now, having said that, there are a lot of people waking up to the national defense issues and our security issues and all our interrelationship with China. This is not the old Cold War with the Soviet Union, where we had two very separate economies. Today, we're finding ourselves completely intertwined with China in virtually every single market. And, for example, and you and I have talked about with Rosemary Gibson, our essential drugs are basically manufactured or assembled in China.
Hey,
That's
Bill,
good.
hold that thought. The supply chain issue is one of the things I want to come back to. We just have to take a very short break. When we return, we're going to complete this part of the conversation with the great Bill Walton and also get into what is being done by the Chinese with what may or may not be a convertible cryptocurrency, but one that's programmable and potentially very seductive, very dangerous. That and more straight ahead.